Well, Secretary Ross is expected to go to China later this week to try and continue those discussions about reaching some kind of trade arrangement. And the question is whether they'll go down the path of the shopping list approach and having China agree to buy some more airplanes or soybeans or LNG from us, or whether they'll go down the path of trying to get China to fundamentally change its industrial policy regarding forced technology transfer and intellectual property rights. I think the Chinese are perfectly prepared to engage in the first area and to give what they call tweetable deliverables to the Trump administration.
Tweetable deliverables. I haven't heard that phrase before.
Yeah, but they're quite resistant, I think, to engaging in a serious discussion about changing their China 2025 strategy, which they believe is really working to their advantage.
Do you believe that China had a role in the breakdown of these discussions with North Korea?
Yeah, look, I'm no expert in North Korea. I think there are a lot of different factors going on there, personal and otherwise. And I think we just have to wait and see how these current discussions that are going on right now play out and whether the summit comes off on June 12th in Singapore or not.
Ambassador Mohammed Al-Arian's here with a question.
Hi, Mike. Question, in 6 months' time, what's the most probable outcome? 1, nothing much has changed. 2, that we have a trade war. Or 3, we have free but fairer trade.
Well, I think you've got to look place by place. I think probably the most likely outcome is the first, which is sort of a marginal change. That we agree with China on a list of things that they'll buy more of from us, but there's not a fundamental change in China policy. That with NAFTA, perhaps we reach an agreement with Mexico and Canada, but it's stuck in Congress because we've run out of time to get it done before the midterm election. And that with the rest of the world, we have various threats of tariffs hanging over their head, and we try and negotiate one-off export restraints on their part, whether it's in steel or in other products.
And in terms of, well, Chrystia Freeland's going to be coming. Is she here today or is she here tomorrow?
I think it's Wednesday.
I think you think it's Wednesday? You're right. So. It's tomorrow. I apologize. You think it's Monday today, but it really is Tuesday. Anyway. I don't know if you were focused on this, but just a week or two ago, you heard from the Prime Minister in Canada say that they were very close on NAFTA. And then you had the President say, of course, that he still wants to rip up the whole thing. So what's the reality?
I think there's a deal there to be done with creativity on everybody's side. I think all three parties have been working hard to try and find creative landing zones for a solution, at least on the autos issue. There are a lot of other issues in the agreement that have not yet, as I understand it, really been resolved, and they do need to be resolved if there's going to be a comprehensive agreement. I think the challenge is, under the law that dictates how a trade agreement is to be taken up by Congress, Trade Promotion Authority, it's very difficult to see how this gets done over the course of this year with the remaining time. And that means that we're looking at perhaps a new Congress next year, and perhaps one in which the House has flipped to Democratic control, taking up a NAFTA 2.0 that the Trump administration is advocating for. And that's a very difficult political situation to envisage.
At the same time, Ambassador, you get the feeling that Mr. Lighthizer is running as fast as he can. I mean, he's effectively at the forefront of renegotiating 3 major trade agreements on 3 major fronts simultaneously. Can you give us a sense of how difficult it is? I mean, there is some notion, too, that, for instance, in the NAFTA agreements, or the NAFTA talks, I should say, there was some momentum going into April, and then that momentum sort of broke because he went away to deal with China.
I think it's very difficult. He's a very capable ambassador. He's been involved in the trade area for decades. But it is difficult to sort of fight a 3-front war, so to speak. And he is involved right now, and deeply involved in China, in NAFTA, in cleaning up the Korea agreement, and of course with Europe and the rest of the world, negotiating one-off deals in order to eliminate the threat of tariffs being imposed, either on steel and aluminum or potentially even on autos. So there's a lot on his plate. He's got a very good staff there at the U.S. Trade Representative's office. But there's also a lot of tumult within the administration over trade, and that makes it even more difficult sometimes.
Ambassador, we got to go, but the Trump administration, of course, has claimed and said that they've made enormous progress on trade. How would you grade the administration?
I think they've made progress in bringing attention to various issues like China. I think there's now a global consensus about some of the challenges that China poses. They've made less progress on delivering new agreements. It's pretty easy to rip up agreements. It's much harder to negotiate them. They're working on that, and I think the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. We have to see what they come up with before we can really assess whether their approach has worked or not.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.